So, Kevin, thanks for joining us. And the floor is yours. Shoot your first proposal.
Sounds good. Yeah, thank you, thanks a lot. I have two proposals that I published, governance proposals. The first one is about whether S13 community should offer platform integration support for deep funding projects. And then my second one is more about voting eligibility. So the first one, when I wrote the proposal, just to kind of preface it, I was not exactly aware about what is the current process of how different defunding projects actually gets deployed to the SingularityNET marketplace. I think when I wrote this proposal, it was kind of based on when I was listening to the current defunding round, DF1, discussing about some of their updates, and I heard some of them discuss about their need to actually learn, for example, learn writing smart contracts or learning how to use Haskell, like in one of the steps in the processes. And I'm not too sure whether that's actually part of like the need to actually integrate into the marketplace. But anyhow, this proposal kind of it like brings it up about maybe the benefits of having some kind of either a integration support or some support form of support networks to make it more seamless for different deep funding projects to actually get deployed onto the Singularity Net marketplace, or at least it provides them the option to do so. And this could kind of also be somewhat relevant to maybe like the expert support group, but these experts are more like orientated towards like the integration. For example, those who are more familiar with Cardano, smart contracts, as well as like the SingularityNet platform. So that is the essence of the first uh, governance proposal.
All right. Does anyone have a pressing need to react to this, or shall I?
There's no pressing need.
Then let me have a go at it. Kevin, first of all, it's a very important topic to make onboarding as easy and seamless as possible. So if we can give that more attention or make it easier, that is very welcome. So in that sense, I think it's a very good proposal. The current process is that we have a lot of material on our site, and maybe not all of them published yet, but we have a lot of material that will guide people along a step-by-step process to publish your service. So you have to register yourself as a company, you have to have a wallet, those are the first things, and then you have to put your service on a server, usually your own server or a server of your own choosing, and then do some technical stuff such as deploying a daemon that will keep track of all the API calls and so on, and some other things that I won't bother you with right now. What it doesn't involve is writing smart contracts, and also you don't need to code in Haskell or anything like that. It would actually be very weird if all the teams or people interacting with our platform would write their own smart contracts, since the smart contracts that we are using are very carefully created and audited as well. So we'd rather not have anybody working on that. What we do aim for is, let's put it like this. I want to avoid at all costs that there would be people willing to onboard their service on our platform and then not doing so by having too high a hurdle. If that is the case for anybody, contact me personally, directly, and I will make sure that you will get the proper attention and support to have your service onboarded, whether you're an awarded team or not. Goes for everybody. Then again, we try to make our processes as transparent and easy as possible. there are some technicalities involved, so we can't completely remove them, unfortunately. But we are trying to get into a modus where everybody should be able to do that by themselves. And we will upgrade our documentation and videos, etc. Whenever we find that certain things are not clear or too hard. So, long story short, we will support you, but we will try to make that support, how do you call it, unnecessary, unneeded, by giving proper documentation and online guidance. That's a short story. I could make one other observation. There was this proposal of Peter of creating or adding existing services to the portal. And then the main work would actually be the onboarding and finding these people and communicating, etc., but also the onboarding itself. And I can imagine that we will somehow merge your proposal, Kevin, with the one from Peter, and ask our community to locate developers that have an interesting service available and put them on the platform. And so we would maybe pay a little bit for people who find these services or these developers, the developers themselves, and then maybe also have a little reward for people that will actually help them put them on the platform. So that could also be an opportunity to get the community involved in the onboarding process.
Yeah, indeed.
So I would love to have that kind of thing in an active community. Maybe Peter, we can also, if there will be too many people wanting to have their service on our platform and we can't do everything ourselves anymore, then maybe our ambassador program could also be a very good channel to collect some support from our community in that. So yeah, I think it's good input. We can do a lot with it. But we hope that for now also this is not a hurdle that would leave people in a dead-end street.
Got it. That's good to know.
Anybody else?
Yeah, a bit same thing, but a bit a different angle. So, Kevin, I think you are a machine learning master and you train models and you sign up services. What is the first blocker in this process to get it on platform? Is it exactly the one you mentioned, that like integrating? Or
like productionizing. So I think usually that is where you have people from multiple like stacks. Like if you're doing machine learning or data science, you develop a lot of the models, prototype it, but then there are other groups like engineers that you rely on to actually deploy it into production. And I'm thinking about whether having this type of like support network or these experts can help more with the deployment, production, integration, etc.
Okay, so idea is that one side is creating models, and you, as a proposal, you sell models that, hey, you want these kinds of training sets or these kind of models, I give you the test results, but you don't know how to put it on AI platform. Because I would say that, I guess, the point of the SingularityNET service platform is to be the automated version which does the like infrastructure, creates you the front end where people can use the service.
Right. So that's kind of like the infrastructure aspect that like hosts these different like models or AI services, etc. that like the different deep funding proposals will develop.
Yeah, so I think this discussion is going a little bit beyond the proposal right now. It's more about the platform and integration, etc. I'd love to have a discussion on that. We can also do it afterwards, but also in respect for people watching this, to learn and more about the proposals themselves, I would suggest that right now, unless you have a very concrete and pressing question, to park this and maybe come back to it after the proposal presentations.
Okay.
Yeah. Then Kevin, I think you had another proposal. So yeah, please enlighten us.
Yeah, sounds good. So my second proposal is about voter eligibility, or who is able to vote for the vote in a deep funding second round, especially the actual portal where you vote for. And the different answers is anyone. I think the default answer is anyone could vote for it, given that they have maybe a crypto wallet. But does that also mean that the deep funding proposers, whether they can also vote in it as well? Like if they can vote for their own projects, or they can vote for other deep funding proposals as well. And if that is the case, then could there be like a potential that the deep funding proposers may want to vote they vote very favorably for their own proposals, but unfavorably for other proposals, because they're all vying for the funding, and that is if the voting is eligible to all, including those who are actually participating in the deep funding as well. So this government proposal is just trying to address this and to see whether we should limit the voting to those who are actually also not actively participating in it.
All right, very clear. Shall I again, or is there anybody else who would like to? Of course, I love to respond to this. First of all, it's a very important point that we try to govern. Indeed, you're right, in the previous round, and we kept it simple also on purpose. It was one token, one vote, and people could vote on their own proposals, and I'm pretty sure that some did. I would actually expect all proposers to vote on their own proposal, but some with more impact maybe than others. We analyzed the results, and what we saw were a number of wallets that gave 110 to one proposal, the highest score, and a 1 to all other proposals, yeah, which is probably not realistic mirror image of the actual quality of all the proposals. So probably they were trying to get some benefit from that. Now, the question is, what is the best way to counter that? Now, what I'm totally with you is that it would be great if everyone would have a wallet login on Sway, and that way we would be able to track voting behavior and compare it to behavior on Sway. So you could argue that if a proposer has a wallet on Sway, that we could say that he's not allowed to vote for his own proposal, and that would make sense. But of course, there's nothing in his way to just create a new account with a new wallet and then still vote for his own proposal. So it's hard to completely avoid that. What we can do, however, we can do two things. The first thing is, maybe in a way the easiest, we could analyze the voting behavior of all the wallets that are participating in our deep funding votes. And if we do that over a number of rounds and also look at their past behavior, then maybe we can see that there are a number of wallets that will consistently vote once, vote 110 and all once, for instance. And then we could give them a lower weight could give their votes a lower weight, so make them less important than people who we think from our analysis will make really thought through judgments on these proposals. So that's one way. We could also see, and another benefit of that is that if we see that a certain wallet has been engaged in voting over 4 or 5 rounds, then at least we know it's not somebody who just encountered deep funding, has submitted a proposal, has now bought a bunch of tokens specifically for that, and is using those tokens specifically for the vote with the purpose of selling those tokens right after. So by seeing this historic behavior and maybe also the holding pattern of wallets, what is their consistent amount of tokens, that would also be an indicator where we can remove some of these undesired behaviors. Let's call it that. It's not unforbidden, but it's undesired. Now, the final thing, and maybe the most important thing, what I would love to see is to have a lot of engagement, obviously, on these proposals, and have that engagement from people that have a wallet login, which is now possible on our portal. And that way we can also play around with weights. So people who just have a wallet but don't have any interaction whatsoever might not get a lot of weight on their votes, while people that have a lot of interaction, like a lot of people here, will also get a higher weight in their votes. Their votes will be worth more. So in that case, we wouldn't even have to restrict people voting for their own wallets or make any very rule-based things. We can just, instead of trying to punish the bad actors, we are rewarding the good actors. And that's easier to do and maybe also fairer. And then it's a question of playing with the weights. So if somebody is really active on our portal and giving a lot of constructive feedback, should this person, one moment, should this person's vote be twice as valuable as a regular vote, or maybe 10 times, or maybe 1.3 times? That I don't know yet, but actually what we're doing right now, this experiment, is precisely to have a first step in learning these things.
I see. So a question there I have is, when you're actually making the vote on the SNET voting portal, does your crypto wallet also need to be connected to the Sway platform, so that way it can access like how much participation that you have done?
Not necessarily. So the way that I would go about that is give a bonus for people who do connect it, and that bonus can be in the form of extra voting weight. So if you just vote on our portal and you're not known on Sway, then your vote would be worth 1. But if you are connected to Sway, our portal, it would be 1.5. And if you're connected to our portal and have a lot of constructive comments, it might be all the way up to 5. I don't know. So that way we wouldn't need to make it required, because people can all have all kinds of reasons why they don't want to be involved in our portal. And they're still members of our community, and they can still have an interesting perspective on things. So I wouldn't want to throw that away completely or make it obligated. Yeah, and the other way we can use that is to reward people. What we're also trying and experimenting with in this situation. For their behavior on Sway. And then we can say, if you have good behavior, or good behavior, if you are a constructive member of the community and you also vote, that could give you a little bit of extra reputation and could give you a little bit of extra rewards compared to somebody who would only be constructive on Sway but not vote with the same wallet.
Got it. So would these reputation voting weights, would that be something that we can see like in our public profile, or is that something more hidden? Like,
yeah, I think we should make that. That's not decided or something. That's a journey we have to go through. And so this is the first step and the first experiment we do there to see, to get a kind of feeling on what attributes we can base that reputation score, and how we will rate different kinds of behavior. And then I suppose it makes a lot of sense to also visualize that on our portal, because it will also enable other functionality. For instance, maybe we can add some functionality, or we should do that in collaboration with our partner Sway, to enable people with a higher reputation, or the comments of people of a higher reputations, to be more visible than comments from people with low reputations, for instance. So we can do a lot with that. We can make the portal more transparent, and we can make sure that the most important opinions count most.
I see.
I would like to add a small thing there, if possible. First of all, I think reputation score should be public. I mean, that makes the most sense to me. I don't see any benefits of having it in the background only. And circling a bit back to what you were mentioning, Jan, before on running an analysis on the voting behavior, I think there it's also the best approach to not punish bad behavior, but reward good behavior. Because right now, we don't really put any rules preventing people from, let's say, voting all once and giving one, which could be theirs, their proposal 10. We don't have any rules, so therefore it feels like removing weight, doesn't really feel good to me. I would add weight to the ones we deem thoughtful. But
Good
it's
point. Yeah, no, good point. It sounds much more sympathetic, at least, and much more positive. So yeah, maybe that's a better. Maybe in the end, the result will be the same. But yeah, I like your thinking. Yeah, good point.
I think I am also aligned with that as well, that approach. Although in order for the weights to mean more, like the more you contribute, when you start off, for example, making votes without having any contributions, would your initial weights be very small, or somewhat small?
Yeah, I think this is a journey, right? So we have to mature in this. So I think at the beginning, probably the differences wouldn't be that much, because there aren't that many people engaging yet on our portal. And there aren't that many people yet with a Web3 login. But as we progress, I think I can imagine that the difference might become bigger. But there will also be more data points to look at. So I can imagine there's also, even if there are two people that don't have a Web3 login on our portal, but just vote with their wallet, there might still be a difference for somebody who we know, who we can see from public information, has been a long-term holder, compared to somebody that we see has just bought a bunch of tokens a week ago. So how that will play out and what the weights will be of all these things, I can give you my ideas right now, but I'm pretty sure that we will do a lot of tweaking on that. And my expectation there is that at the beginning, we will make bigger changes, and then we'll go different ways. Oh, this is too high, the weight for this is too high, let's put it lower, and then it's too low. And then as we progress in time, it will mature, and the changes that we will make will be more and more subtle, until we maybe get to a point where we won't make any changes anymore, where it's completely transparent, or where when we do want to make a change, we first have to put it to a community vote before we can make that change.
Yeah,
But
that sounds good.
that's a long-term thing. I'm afraid. I would hope that we will be there in a half a year, but I think it will take quite a bit longer.
Gotcha. Yeah, sounds good.
All right. It took a little bit more time than last time because we only had 2 proposals right now. Is there anybody else who would have some insights or questions or whatever? Then let's. Oh, Shem, sorry. Yeah, Felix.
Just when coming back to the merit, because I know you love meritocratic everything. And I think always, I think really good experience from the Cardano side as well. It's amazing to learn to how to set things up properly. But I think it's really important before even setting things up to have a mechanism how to stop it. Things will go wrong, reputation will be used, the system will be cheated, how to reset on a proper way as well. Because you will end in a situation where you have people which have been maybe extremely developed in the first year or in 2 years, and then transforming somehow. Because then they come a little bit into a public position and enterprises, companies come to them and say, hey, you have a great reputation, can we pay you for this and that? So this will impact a lot. And already having in mind on the beginning, there will be the need for reset or for certain stop for some mechanisms.
100%. 100%. Actually, we are having some internal discussions lately also on decentralization and DAOs, etc. And I've made that exact point also. I think it's important when you start out with these processes that you have to make sure that you don't walk into a dead-end street, that you walk into a situation that you can't get out of anymore. And that can happen due to different reasons. One would be that you create a smart contract with some conditions that give unforeseen results that you can't get out of. I won't get into details right now. Another could be more organizational, that there are a lot of people involved with established rights and roles and perks that resist change. And another could be all kinds of rules. So I usually, I often make the comparison between liquid democracy and reputation. And both can go hand in hand, by the way. There's not a good and a bad thing there. But if you would have liquid democracy, and that means that you can give your vote to somebody else, who can give your vote to somebody else, or maybe do that on a specific topic, let somebody else vote for you on specific topics, etc. Once you have given that vote, there's the danger that you will never change it again because it's just too much work. And from a governance perspective, if you got into that situation, it might be very hard to get out because it's based on people voting, and I can't change your vote. Reputation, on the other hand, is just a box of a lot of values, criteria, ratings for all kinds of activities that you did. But I can't change those activities that you did in the past, but I can change the rating of these activities. And that way, that will give us a tool that we can continue to tweak and use or not use certain things. If we see that a certain behavior is abused by spam, for instance, people having bots creating comments or something just to harvest reputation, then we can just tweak that in a way that doesn't count that much anymore, or we will change it and try to recognize bot behavior from other behavior, and then apply, maybe even penalize, if we want to penalize people that use bots actively. So you have a lot of room there, you have a lot of playing room, and you have a lot of ways to interact and to learn and to improve over time without needing to ask for a vote every time. But it's still based on community behavior and intent. So I think in a way that is best of both worlds. But the downside there is that we have to collect that reputation, and that will take time, and we need people to interact with our portal and with the proposals and with the teams, etc. And I'm hopeful and positive that over time we will get more and more data, and that certain people will serve us. And yeah, maybe we'll get into a kind of meritocracy. Not sure either if that is the philosophical most best thing to be. If that were the case, then scientists would never argue with each other, which they do a lot. So in the end, everybody can have a vote, right? But it is also helpful and supportive to understand the reasoning of people that have more knowledge or experience in a certain area. And that is at least one thing we can accomplish with this. Cool. This went way beyond just a proposal, but I think both these proposals, Kevin, were excellent opportunities to give some more explanation on what we're doing and how we're doing and what we're aiming for. So yeah, I took that opportunity. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot for reviewing and also explaining more of this process.
Cool. Then yeah, we have time left, so we can go into discussing a little bit on our on the given proposals. What would you guys prefer? Shall we keep on recording or shall we stop it? I think it's okay to stop it, to be honest. Or would you like to keep it on? That's also fine with me.
I personally don't really mind. It's okay.
No?
Me too.
Okay, as long as everybody feels free to speak their mind, then there's certainly no problem. All right. So yeah, I gave this assignment on the social channels. Let me see. Do you hear all those noises from my social channels? I will quit them because it's also distracting myself, I notice.
I think we can hear them, but they are not too strong, so they are not distracting a lot.
Okay, well, they're distracting me more than you, so.
I keep thinking somebody wants something on Slack.
Yeah, we're programmed that way, right? All right, so we have a bunch of.
That's why I didn't recognize the sound. It's like.
We have a number of proposals, and I don't think we necessarily have to choose one or two of exact these proposals and then have them vote on. I think there's also an opportunity to take 3 proposals that we think all have some merit, and if they have overlapping features, maybe we can combine them to a super proposal and have that proposal being voted on by the community. So I think we can take some freedom there. The other thing is, honestly, that the amount of engagement in this phase of the experiment has not been extremely high. I would have expected it a little bit higher, especially because we're also rewarding these 100,000 AGIX tokens. So good news for the people who do participate, and for those listening now, you still can participate and get some of those AGIX if you're quick. So it's not just an award for submitting proposals, it's an award for participation, and how we actually rate that is something that we will make up afterwards. But so you could argue based on the amount of people, and this is a discussion I had with Peter this morning, but I want to be completely transparent in this, based on the amount of people that are engaging in this experiment, would that warrant actual a complete official community vote? So if only, let's put it into some numbers, if only 0.1 of the wallets is engaged, do we have to try to reach 30,000 wallets to give their vote on the results that this 0.1% came up with?
No.
And also one experience, I wouldn't say that there has been a low participation. Looking on Catalyst and since the beginning, I would say Defund performs actually pretty well.
Thank you.
By the quality of contribution, this is definitely much higher than the beginning of Catalyst, I would say. So the quality outcome which is submitted, I would say, and you have much more, let's say, really stable contributors already around, which wasn't that much the case in Catalyst neither in the beginning. So from starting point, I would say I'm a little bit surprised how it went so well, actually, even with voting participation and all.
All right. Well, that's a very good opinion to hear. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. Yeah, I noticed. I looked back at the statistics of Catalyst, and you also saw the first few rounds. It was really slow, and then it started to grow consistently after that. So, still have to find out what the secret was to start this growing thing. But
full-time contributors.
Yeah.
The community who built their own ecosystem totally by themselves and just onboarded a shitload of whole communities into the ecosystem.
You're talking about yourself right now, aren't you?
No, this wasn't myself. People like Tivo, he was there since day one already, and this has been a quite global and collective thing. I'm a part of this, but I'm definitely not the only one. There have been, I would say, 20-30 people around.
I'm not saying you're the only one. I'm not saying so. Cardano has a great community, of course, and is much bigger than SingularityNET. So we can't expect the numbers of Cardano in the short term. Long term is a different story. But yeah, also very grateful for you guys to join here and give your experience and bring your experience of also that early phase to us. But yeah, coming back to that voting thing. I think what Peter and I landed up earlier today is that, yeah, also the voting is part of the experiment. And let's just see what happens. And after thinking a little bit about it, and that's also the reason why I came up with that idea of I would like to know what you would think the perfect proposal would be. It's one thing to wrap your head around 15 or 20 proposals, try to understand them, have a mental picture of them and weighing them against each other, etc. It's a different thing if you have 2 or 3 or even one very clear-cut proposal being offered to you, to which you can say yes, no, or maybe, or whatever. So I still think this second part of the experiment might also be interesting. And actually, we do have some interesting proposals out there that, regardless of this experiment, I would like to propose to a bigger audience, just to see what they think about it.
So do you mean, sorry to cut you off, but do you mean like to present to the whole community all of the proposals that have been spoken about, or do we like narrow it down to like 5 different proposals, let's say?
Yeah, it was also always the idea to narrow it down. I had no idea how many proposals would be submitted. Right now it's about 15, but it could have been 100, right? So we have people vote on 100 proposals. Maybe in the context of deep funding, that's possible, but not actual proposals of deep funding, but not for governance proposals. Also, I think we need to do some review and assessment on all the proposals and make sure that they actually make sense and that they are within the conditions. One condition being that the proposal should be related to round 2 of deep funding. And coming back to that dead-end street of you, Felix, what we would like to avoid is that we organize a vote now on something that would tie us to a certain condition or rule for the next 5 years without properly understanding the impact of such a thing. So therefore, we try to limit the scope to the next round, try it out in the next round. Yeah, and if it works well, of course, we can continue. And if it doesn't work well, then we'll think of something else or we change it or whatever. So yeah, it was always the idea to filter it down. And we also made clear that there aren't any preset rules on how we would filter it down because we didn't know the dynamics of this. So we could have said, well, we will just take the 2 proposals with the highest vote on sway or with most positive reactions or whatever, and we'll put them to a vote. But we gave ourselves some freedom to have some proper judgment on that and do whatever is needed. And I think there might be some opportunity to, take the best out of a few proposals and together define 2 or 3 proposals that we think would actually really bring value to round 2 would also be specific enough to round 2. I also made a proposal myself of which I thought later on, well, maybe that's interesting for later, but not for round 2. So we probably won't do that. And that would also be worthwhile to ask the community's opinion about. And yeah, that can have multiple benefits. The benefit can be to learn what the bigger community thinks about things, because we might already be biased. We are filtered. We are a specific subgroup in our community, and maybe our voice is not the voice of everyone. But another interesting result could be that it would bring some more attention to deep funding by just asking people about their opinion. Maybe they'll start thinking about it and then they'll start getting involved, and maybe that will help us to get more engagement next time. So yeah, all kinds of interesting effects, I think. So does anybody, and I've thought about it, I have a few ideas, surprise. But does anybody else have something that they think, well, with all the knowledge that I have collected over the past few weeks, suppose that we would have a new governance round and it was completely empty and everybody would have forgotten, except you, what was proposed before. What would now be your perfect proposal? That would be the question. Peter, I see your eyes twinkle. I think you have an idea.
Well, no, it's interesting. I didn't approach it from that angle, like reset and then what would you do?
Yeah, I mean, it's not about the winners, right? It's not about who creates the winning proposal. It's about doing what is best for deep funding and using our collective knowledge and experience and insight to create some kind of optimum.
Yeah, naturally. Well, like you suggested, the one by Kevin, for example, could relatively simple be merged with mine. And I think we should, just, that's not an actual answer to your question, but clustering the identical ones makes perfect sense to me from here on. But maybe Felix has an actual answer to your question, because I'm dodging it.
Because main idea is which of the governance proposals there is the best one, let's say, right?
The best one?
Because I think I messed up the question a little bit. You asked for, when you asked, okay, for the people here to say, okay, which is the proposal right now submitted in the governance experience, which you think is the best one?
No.
Was
I
it
would
that?
go beyond,
Okay.
I'd like to go
Okay.
beyond that. So I would think, with all the knowledge of all the proposals being submitted and the ideas you gained from that and the insights, if you would make the perfect proposal right now that would be suitable to put out for a community vote, what would that proposal be? And it doesn't matter if it's your proposal or somebody else or the combination of 3 proposals or what.
It would forcefully be community. Does it make sense for you that the community is enabled to submit governance proposals? If
Sorry,
the community,
I get that.
then it would be the question to the community, if the community should be able to submit governance proposals. Is the quality which is shown up here enough for the community to delegate this trust to the community, or should it handle back to SingularityNET because the delivered value is not yet that effective as envisioned, maybe?
That's a very good one. It's a kind of meta proposal, almost. A proposal about proposals, or about the governance thing as such. Yeah, actually, I did have a proposal similar to that. I was asking, well, if the engagement will stay low, would it at some point be better to take it back and ask less of the community, do more internally, and then ask just as at a certain stage, maybe a yes or no phase, and make it easier for the community, even as a starting phase, and then maybe later on expand that again. But this was exactly the one that I was referring to before, where I said, well, I actually made one proposal where I think myself that round 2 is a little bit too early for that. So if we would be in round 3 or 4, and we wouldn't see an increase of engagement, yeah, then there might be a point at which you could say, well, maybe we have to rethink the whole approach of deep funding and how we do the selection process and how we engage the community, etc.
Yeah, I can actually give one example of that. I think it's just related to the how we're making, like, how whether we have like a reputation system in Sway and how that could tie into the voting weight, and whether that is something that will need to be developed within SingularityNET, or is that something that this design you'll be willing to outsource to community members like us? And if it is indeed the latter, I was actually thinking about that could be probably be a good government proposal. Like, what's the, like, whether there should be a reputation system that influences the weights of the vote.
Yeah. Very interesting question. There's 2 things. I think a reputation system is not something that we can easily have available in round 2. So this is something that would be emerging slowly over time, and it would also be hard to have a judgment on it in a very early phase, because there's so many ways to implement it with so many different outcomes. Of course, you could ask the very fundamental question, is measuring reputation of people a good thing at all? Or are we doing something evil there? And that could be an interesting question. But I think it would go a little bit beyond the scope of round 2.
How about like voting weights?
Yeah, that is an interesting, that is a very concrete one. Yeah. That is a very, should we analyze holding behavior of wallets and use that for weighting? Yeah, that's an interesting one. Yeah, cool.
I think what also would be a great addition to, let's say, more engagement in such governance experiences, you had round 2, then a pause, which is awesome already. And then you started the governance experiment. When you end the one funding round with a really well-structured retrospective, invite already everybody. Oh, okay, let's have a step. Let's have a pause. Let's have a good look back, and let's try to identify what worked well, what didn't work well. Build already the momentum and transform the output then in actual governance proposals, for example. We have directly not, let's say, an ad hoc event like this, but a whole process in place. Then you say already, okay, how to build the feedback and the insights, how to render them properly, and how to transform them into actually high quality outputs as well.
If I translate that to a question we can give to the community, it could be something like, should we have a governance round after every regular round, for instance? Or should we have it in a different frequency or whatever?
To mainly introduce a phase of, let's say, high frequent communication within the community, where you know, okay, you have this time where everybody is pretty much strongly engaged, because a lot of people, they don't engage, let's say, they don't engage in giving feedback to the proposals. They engage once the results are out and they are confronted with the actual results. And then they say, why this, why that, and all this stuff. And it's actually great if you're able to capture this momentum and to transform it into a constructive process then.
Good point. Yeah, that's a really new one for me. So thank you. But basically, if I translate it like you say it right now, should we have a governance round? And then let's focus on round 2. Should we have a new governance round within 2 weeks after the results are being communicated, something like that? And whether it's a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks and how that process looks like, we can detail that later. Yeah, might be interesting. People can let off some steam if they don't like the results, and they can think about what could we have done different to get a better outcome. Yeah.
Because IoT, they make it, from our perspective, they make a huge mistake. They make a survey after each funding round, but it's closed data, it's closed source. Nobody has actually an idea what is the input, and implementations and improvements for the next funding round are made totally behind closed doors and from top down. So nobody in the community is actually not even invited in a retrospective where they have insights on the results, nor in analyzing this data and coming up with improvements. Yeah. And what happens very often then is that you have a top-down approach of improvements from round to round without ever including the community.
Yeah. I love, of course, having the community involved in that, and also have regular evaluations. There is one risk here, is about over-promising. So if you have a lot of feedback, then and you collect a lot of complaints people have or problems that people see, there is the implicit promise that you will fix all of those. And of course, we are not the platform is not, or the platform is not our own. It's from a third party called Sway. So we are relying on them, and they're very collaborative, etc. But still, also they and we would also be in the same situation, are limited in resources. So we have to prioritize things and make sure. But still,
I think
we can have
I think you did this already by introducing the governance experience, because you set some criteria, like does it blocks SingularityNET Foundation on launching a second one, for example? And this is a really smart one, actually, right? Because you predefine already, okay, we are only able to take improvements into consideration which are actually feasible in a short time frame as well. For everything else, great to have your ideas, great to have your minds, but hey, this is a step-by-step way, and this takes.
Yeah, I agree. It's kind of expectation management, and as long as you, I think the most important thing is to keep on explaining yourself in this and in everything that we do. Sometimes we have to make centralized decisions, especially in this early stage, but I think most important thing is that we explain why we are doing it and based on what information, and then ask for input. And then indeed, where possible, feasible, improve it the next time. Yeah. All right, that could be a good one. Yeah. Have a new round next time. And we could add to the question, should we put 100,000 AGIX as awards next time also for participating? Maybe that will wake up some people, who knows? Yeah, good one. Yeah, of course, what we will do is after the round closes, which is next Sunday, we should get a report, an export from Sway with all the interactions, and then we can calculate who had most interactions and how these rewards and weighting will be distributed, etc. And then we also have a little bit more final insight in the proposals. I also already did that yesterday. I put them in an Excel sheet and did manually some work, the number of engagements and the number of... so a few of them stood out. I think the one from Peter obviously was positively. So doing something for existing services. If I would create it right now with my personal preferences, I would say not create a whole round, but maybe create a pool for existing services. But that could be a very interesting thing to ask our community what they think about that. Should we do it? Should we not do it? Should we do it only as a pool inside a round, or should we have a whole round about existing services? Could be one part of the question. And the other part, what I alluded to before, is should we maybe divide the awards into 3 parts? So maybe the biggest part would be for the actual developer of the service, the reward, but we would also give a reward to the person who would find that server and that developer. And we could give part of a predefined award to the person that will help the publisher or the AI developer to onboard on the platform. So all parties would get part of the awards. And then the person submitting the proposal would be the one to collect the wallets and decide who gets what, basically. So that would be, I think that would be, and maybe those details and how we can be sure that it's not being gamified too much. If there's a little bit going on, as long as we get useful services on the platform for a reasonable amount of money, yeah, that's always a good result, I would say. If we could do it like that and discuss the details a little bit, I think that would be a very good one. I would really love to hear what the community thinks about that proposal. And I also, if we actually would like to do that, we would need the community to actually be engaged in that and start searching for. So it would also be a good gauge to see if we can expect people to actually go hunt for good services or not. So if there's a lot of positive reactions on this one, that might be an indicator that there might also be actual people wanting to go out and hunt for these services.
Really, I think Dalton, this is an awesome idea, but too early, because you don't have yet this amount of, let's say, experienced and committed people who would run out and find those services, make sure that they are onboarded. I think the capacity there is not on place. But how to get the capacity on place to transform something like this, because it would be a game changer, right?
Yeah, so that's exactly the reason why I'm thinking about a pool. Well, there are 2 reasons for a pool and not a complete. I can imagine at some point we will do alternating rounds. One will be for new projects and the next will be for existing services. And then the next one will be for new projects and something like that, or have these 2 streams in parallel. But there are 2 reasons why I think maybe a pool is better at this moment. One is exactly what you're saying. We're not sure how much engagement we will get on that. And the other one is that I think there are people waiting with new projects and new ideas, actually waiting for this new round to start. And not sure if it would be a good signal for them to say, well, we thought about it and you have to wait another 3 months. So continuation is also an important thing to build engagement, I would say. I think there was also a lot of positive feedback on maximizing our risk. So the proposal was to have, in case there would be a complete crash of the market, then that would probably also impact AGIX. And if we would promise a fiat value, that could give us the risk that we would deplete our treasury very quickly. Which we might be sorry for a year later if the price would go hugely up again. The mitigation would be to have an artificial lower boundary for paying out. I think there are a number of comments on that. A lot of positive comments. Let me see. Yeah, like the votes rating was an 68%, so it can go all the way from -100 to +100. So 68 is a very good score. There was one concern, and there were 8 strengths, I think. Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. And the one of Peter, to give you an example, had a rating of 57. Had 4 concerns and had 6 strengths. So I think this one was even more positive. Yeah, also the number of votes was 6 and mine were 7. So that's comparable. So I think both were quite strong. Another one that is strong is, should deep funding create a process in which successful deep funding projects receive additional funding after providing tangible results? That was from you, Aman.
Yeah.
82% of 7 votes. So a lot of people like that idea. Also 7 strengths and 2 concerns. But my response would be, it's already possible. Everybody can just submit a new one and can tell the community, listen, I did this one, I was very successful, so please give me more. I've proven my worth. Another thing is that I think when we start the next round, there will not be that many teams that already have tangible results out of there. Actually, I had one talk today prior to this one with one team that is planning over the next few weeks to have maybe a first service ready. So that also doesn't make it most appropriate for the next round. But
I agree. Yeah.
I did single out one other. Yeah, there was, I think there were a few projects that somehow touched on the idea that there are different phases in a project. And somehow we should also award or stimulate ideation of new projects. So right now the condition is, if you want to participate and win, then you have to support the platform in some way, meaning creating a service, using a service. Well, won't go into all the details. But if you only create an idea for a service, that wouldn't count because it wouldn't directly impact utilization of the platform. But I still think it's a good and interesting idea. So what I came up with is, I can imagine that people would have a good idea, maybe non-technical people, they want to get it out there and want to get proper exposure. Now, one argument is you can already do that on our platform. But I can imagine if doing that in an actual round and getting an award has some benefits. So what we could say is, we will give you the platform, the audience, to promote your idea. You can get an award. The award wouldn't be very high, I would say, just a couple of thousand euros. Well, can be a lot of money for some people. But we would only be paying it out if you have some tangible results created. And we could define that somehow. So we could say, you will get a percentage of the award if you come up with a functional or with a functional design, something like a user stories or a backlog, whatever your paradigm you're working in. And we could give you the complete award when you have found a technical person that embraces your idea, and together you have made an architecture and a technical design for something that was started out as a non-technical idea, basically. So that we could, sorry, yeah?
I would add on to that, because you mentioned this last meeting where it's like some projects or some people were like, oh, why would we start without an upfront payment? So maybe, let's say, like you said, the award for an idea would be a few €1,000. Maybe we can still like front €500 or something, so that way we can like get them going, so that way they don't feel like they're just doing work for free.
Yeah, but I would like to relate it to an actual next step. So if somebody just put in a nice idea that's being awarded, I would only award him with tokens if he does something with it, makes it complete. And the idea is that with these tokens, he would be able to find a technical specialist that could help him, and then he can pay that person. So he can say, well, I got this 2,000 euros, you can get 1,000 of it if you help me develop this idea. And then in the next round, the two of us together, maybe with other people, can go for a proper funding of the actual project. But he would already be able to find a developer or a researcher or whatever, maybe outside of our ecosystem, that could help bring the proposal to a proper level.
Yeah, so this might be a silly question, but don't we already have like AI developers within the SingularityNET team, or is it just all external developers?
There are a lot of AI developers on the SingularityNET team, and they're all extremely stretched and busy. And our community will tell you that we're not developing fast enough, some things, and I totally agree. I wish we could do things a lot faster. So yeah, we try to guide people, but our people are also extremely experienced. So if there would be an unexperienced person with just a great idea, it can take quite a lot of time to bring that to a stage where it's an actual feasible project.
Mm-hmm.
And I would rather allocate our very high level world-class people to projects that are already at that stage, but then need some coaching to make it even work better. So I'd rather have our experts where we need to, or where we can apply them, to projects that are already in a further stage, basically.
Okay, yeah, it would be like a waste of resources, basically, to work on just an idea.
I wouldn't call it a waste, but we have to be careful. We are restricted. We can only apply that amount of resources, and I would like to apply them where they are most valuable. And I think they're most valuable with projects that is already very good and make them excellent, rather than having something from ideation to something feasible.
100%. Yep.
Cool. And then the last thing here is I can also imagine that for this specific case, and maybe I'm making it too complex here, but I can imagine that for this specific case, award, ideation, we wouldn't pay fiat value, but just a fixed amount of tokens. So you get 2,000 tokens or 20,000 tokens or whatever. And then the ideator can pay with tokens an architect or a developer or a researcher that can help him evolve.
I think what would make sense there maybe also some milestone, something what we try to figure out also in Catalyst, maybe rather going into milestone-based funding. So you can have a great idea, but if you have a great idea and you would want to present it to a community, show us the action plan. Like, let's say, a carpenter who says, okay, I built this beautiful furniture for him. At first, you will make his sketch, right? technical drawing of everything. And you will say, oh, okay, what do I need when? They usually know this. And even when it comes to great ideas, they say, oh, okay, but which are the milestones? Like you said, maybe it takes a first budget to find the developer. Once you found the developer, then okay, a second budget comes in. And it's already your first milestone. And rewards are only paid out by achievement of a milestone, not before.
Yeah, exactly. That's actually what I was trying to explain. So I didn't make myself clear enough. But so ideation is nice, but I would only award them if they actually go to the next step and creating something tangible, because I think we need to help them drive those ideas into a tangible result that they can show to people and do stuff with. And that could be something like a functional design that's maybe a little bit old school, or it could be a backlog with user stories, or something that could be a first step. That person could do that himself or herself. And the next step could be having a more technical person involved, and then bringing it up to the level of which methods are we using, what is the architecture, etc., etc. By the way, it could also be a technical person having a very technical proposition, but then needing a bit more front-end development or whatever. Maybe that would be already more realistic for an actual proposal. But I can imagine this kind of stage would help people to find collaborators. And so maybe there's also room for doing it the other way around, for technical people finding a UXer or a designer, or work out the plan in a different way.
For example, a hardcore developer, hardcore nerd, finds the fascination in community and starts to set up meetups. Has fucking no idea how to set up a table straight, how to get beer on the place. You need some folks. This would then be other way around, maybe.
Yeah, for sure.
Not just joking.
Yeah. Well, it can also be that somebody, for instance, already has an existing service, but wants to explore how to utilize that service and needs maybe marketing effort, or design or UX. But I'd like to be surprised and see what happens. So here the case is, again, the question would be, we have to make some rules, but we have to make them not too strict, because then we will not allow ourselves to be positively surprised anymore. So maybe also here we could demand from the teams that we could say, just like we do with the normal proposals, that they have to come up with their own milestones, but they have to be concrete, and they have to tell us what these milestones are. So I'm saying functional and technical, but it could indeed also be market research. Actually, that could be a very good one. I have this idea, but to bring it to a proposal, I would like to do some proper market research, and I need a few thousand euros to do that. No. And then it's up to the community to say if we think that's worth it. So in the end, we should only be awarding teams or people that we think have an actual good chance of developing a solution that is valuable on our platform. That would always still have to be the end goal.
That does make me wonder, like, in this upcoming vote, if we would be able to do that in one actual round of voting, or if we would have some staggered questions, because I can imagine if somebody's in favor of having this support for ideation, or whatever you exactly call it, then the next question would become, so what portion of the budget would be, or what kind of funds would be available for these kind of things? So it makes me wonder if we should have, like, I'm not sure.
Let's put it this way. In the first round, we decided everything by ourselves. So now we're already making the next step, asking the community about certain aspects. I think we should not overburden the community with too many rounds and too many questions, and we should take our responsibility here to come up with a proper, just like we do with these questions right now. We ask for input, then we put our mind to it, we mold them into something that we can ask to the community, and then it comes back. So it's only round 2. So I would say maybe to some extent we can build different variations into the questions, as long as it's not, we are not getting a multiple choice with 120 options. So maybe to some extent we can already do that. To some extent, maybe we should take our own responsibility in defining the details of these things. And then, like Felix says, 2 weeks after the results of round 2 are in, we can ask the next question. We now put 20% of our budget to existing services, and it turned out to be a massive success. Should we do it different next time? And that way we can learn from round to round. By the way, actually on this topic, we might also make it a little bit easier. We can say 30% goes to existing services, and 10% goes to new ideas, and then 60% goes to regular proposals. But we can add the condition there: if some of these pools would not be depleted, that they would fill in the other pools. So if there would be very limited amount of regular proposals, and there would be a storm of people going to existing proposals, or the other way around, we could still allocate some funding that was not used to the other one.
Yeah, fair. At the same time, I'm not sure if that's completely needed. Like, of course, these budgets. I mean, there's also benefit in the funds, the treasury lasting longer. So yeah, it's a bit double to me.
Yeah, this is one of the things that will become easier over time, because we can predict better where the most and what amount of proposals in different categories we can expect, and maybe steer it a little bit also. And we know better how these mechanisms will work and what the effects will be. But I think it's good to think about these conditions prior to the next round, and not certain if this is one that we would need to propose to the community. I think so. For the governance experiment that we're doing right now, we have given ourselves a lot of freedom in saying, well, we're not closing down all the conditions exactly, but we give us some freedom to change the rules as we go along, like filtering down these proposals. For an actual round, it is more important to have clear-cut conditions up front where possible. So maybe we should find a way to define this beforehand, what the mechanism will be, and not leave it to our judgment afterwards, which is a kind of tempting. But that can bring us in a little bit of problems if people feel disadvantaged because of that whatever decision we make, because then there's actual money on the table, so to speak.
Yeah,
all right. All right. Good discussion, people. I think we're nearing the end of our session today. I like the direction where this is going. I like your input. Gives me some fresh and new ideas. Yeah, and at least we give everybody the opportunity to think along with us and come with new ideas and proposals.
I'm gonna log off right now, Jan, but I was just gonna ask, when do you expect the next round of deep funding to start?
Good question. So I think as soon as this round has finished, I didn't see any proposals that want to delay a round, also not bring it forward or whatever. So I don't think there's impact from this experiment on the timing of the next round. So if you ask me now, I would say Sunday evening, we will have finished this part of the experiment. Then we'll give ourselves a week or so to think about what are the best questions to ask in a regular vote, and to also work out the mechanisms of the rating, the reputation rating. Then we have to start that round. We have to prepare our voting portal for it. Might also take a little bit of time. So, and then the actual vote have to take place. That will take a week. So, and then we have to publish the results and maybe do some work. So I think it will easily be 3 or 4 weeks from now before we can, and we have to communicate about the next round, especially if there are some changes in the rules, so we are doing things differently. That will probably also take maybe a week or 2 weeks of communication, telling everybody what has changed and what they're up to.
Okay, so like a month from now, basically.
Well, I think that would be a very optimistic scenario. It would, with the communication that I just mentioned, it would sooner be 6 weeks, I think. So it's now half October. End of November, beginning of December. That would be my target date right now. But don't pin me on that. Depends a little bit on what the outcome will be, what actually needs to be changed in round 2. Could be also a situation where we decide that we need some specific functionality, or we know that some specific functionality will be released at a certain date, and we decide to wait for that. That's also a scenario. So there's no certainty here. But I am looking forward to the next round. I want it to start. So I think end of November, begin December would be a good target date for that.
It's perfect. Perfect.
Cool. Thanks a lot, everybody. Next week, same time, same place. And I think then we can come back to the questions and see if we can define the final questions. I'll share the Excel sheet that I created, or the Google spreadsheet that I created, with these manually filled in things and my own musings on that. So don't take it too seriously. Give your comments, and if you have some other preferred, if you on thinking longer, you have some other proposals that you think should be asked, then you can just add them. So I'll be sharing that sheet with you.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
It was very
Have a good
valuable.
night.
See you
Thanks,
around.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.